Hello YouTube, and hello to you, my fellow metalheads. This is Duke Krishnak reporting in with you guys for another video. Today I have a special guest, along with my last video. And yeah, I'm going to be doing my, what I like about deathcore is basically the gist of this video. So, a lot of people have mixed feelings about deathcore. Some people hate deathcore. Some people love deathcore. It's all over the place. I like deathcore. I have a few gripes with it, which I will talk about in another video, as I plan on doing with any genre that I listen to. So, all in all, I'm a fan of deathcore. One of the first genres of extreme metal that I truly got into. So, I had listened to death metal before this. I had listened to a handful of death metal bands and a couple grindcore bands, notably Napalm Death above all others. And that was sort of my intro into the more extreme metal genres, was starting with death metal. But what really got me into extreme metal in general, even black metal and whatnot, just all-encompassing, deathcore was the major push that pushed me into liking this more extreme side of music. And I think that when people hate on deathcore, they don't realize that, is that for people around my age, in their early 20s, just in their 20s in general, this is sort of the heavy music that was coming up with us. That was sort of our version of, the people who were there when death metal was beginning, or the people who was there when black metal was beginning. This is my generation's main push in extreme music, and without that extreme, push there on me, I wouldn't have gotten into metal as big as I have today. Obviously, I'm going to have a YouTube channel about it. I love metal. So without deathcore, and the reason why I'm stressing deathcore as being the main thriving force into just getting me into extreme metal in general, is because I didn't have anyone pushing me into getting into death metal. That was on my own fruition. I heard about it. I was trying to be edgy and try something new. To be like, look, be scared of me, I'm listening to metals, erg. That's why I listen to death metal, because everyone knows it, and it was just what I wanted to pick up, and I ended up actually liking it. And the reason deathcore really stuck with me and actually brought me into legitimately, truly loving metal music is because of the fact that I had social pressures. I don't want to say pressures, but I had social you know what I mean. I had some friends, I had acquaintances that liked deathcore, right? I didn't really have anyone that liked death metal, or black metal, or even grindcore. When I was younger, when I was in high school, it was all about deathcore. That was the cool thing. So where did I hear about these harder, heavier metal bands? It was from deathcore, because that's what everyone was cool into. So that's how I heard about some of these bands. And then when I started listening to, the more generic of the entry-level deathcore bands like Suicide Silence and Whitechapel and Carnifex and whatnot, is when I really started to look more into, expanding my death metal repertoire. And then I discovered a couple power metal bands, and I re-looked into grindcore a little bit because of my push towards deathcore from friends and coworkers and just people that I knew in class, was just because of deathcore. And that's what I love about deathcore, is the fact that it fundamentally took me from someone who enjoyed a little bit of like death metal and a pinch of grindcore, and just really took that and sort of my like new metal influences like Slipknot and Mudvayne and Mushroomhead, and just kind of lumped me into going from a more casual metal fan, whereas I would listen to metal and some other genres of music, whereas metal just took over and became my absolute predominant force of musical interest. And deathcore is what helps me do that. That being said, nowadays, is deathcore my favorite genre of extreme metal or in general? No. Currently, I'm in a huge black metal binge, and I really do think that black metal is the one that's going to be coming up top out of everything. Is black metal, black and death metal, and black and deathcore, things like that is definitely gonna stick the test of time. Not that I'm not going to dislike the other ones, but I know those ones in particular are really gonna be oomph. But once again, without that deathcore influence, I would have not discovered what is true metal. You know what I mean? Making fun of elitists there a little, but you guys know what I mean. Deathcore, really, like I said, and I'm gonna stop this in a minute. It really is influential in the fact that it brought on a new wave of metalheads. Whether these metalheads looked into deathcore and was like, you know what, screw this, I don't like this stuff, so I'm gonna listen to more death metal. And then guess what? Ooh, now you're a big death metal fan. Yeah, and that's not a side effect of deathcore coming around because you heard of deathcore, didn't really like it, and wanted to try something a little different. Boom, you're a death metal fan. Okay, cool. That helps the scene. That could also be said with black metal, or grindcore, whatever the hell. Yeah, it's influential in many senses in the fact that even within the death metal scene, it became sort of a competitor, whereas death metal bands had to sort of up their ante to sort of bring in more people to listen to death metal because people are moving over to deathcore. And I'm speaking, like the mid 2000s, early 2000s when this was more of a thing. And I think it kind of helped to reinvigorate death metal and black metal in some sense. I don't think that was an intention. I think it, wasn't the only real reason, but I think it kind of pushed people into more extreme genres of music, just as, when one rises up, people start looking up into other things. That makes sense to me, right? People like one thing, they want to look into another thing and see if they like it, and I think that's what deathcore did for a lot of people. And yeah, now I'm going to stop talking about influence, and I'm really going to talk about what I like, specifically musically, in deathcore. I like the sort of steady beat, and I do kind of like, and I know some people say it's really repetitive, but I really like the breakdowns and whatnot. I like the fact that it can be a little slower because it changes up death metal, right? It gives that a whole new vibe because with a lot of people coming into deathcore, they tend to be more on the death metal sides or have been more familiar with death metal versus black metal coming in to deathcore. And it's not called blackcore, is it? But anyway, so what I like about it is it sort of takes death metal and it puts a little bit more high-pitched vocals. It puts a little bit more clean vocals and normal singing in it, and it sort of expands the avenue, broadens people's ideas of what you can do with extreme metal. Solid. What's the issue with that? You know what I mean? Just because you don't like deathcore doesn't mean you can't appreciate the fact that they're not helping expand and broaden other people's musical horizons. Yeah. So I really like the fact that there's high pitched and low, and the occasional clean vocals. When you're listening to a lot of death metal, particularly brutal death metal and slam, it becomes stale and repetitive. There's nothing. It almost seems like you either pick the old school or the new school, and you really like one or the two or the other. I know, I'm generalizing. But you know what I'm saying is it's always good to have variety, right? That's why I look at deathcore now, whereas I look as black metal and then death metal and then deathcore and then grindcore and power metal as sort of like how I layer my musical taste, and thrash kind of in between power metal, kind of tying with it. But anyway, yeah, I look at it as another cog in the wheel where I don't dwell on it like I did as my entry point and my focal point in getting into metal music, but I still have a bit of nostalgia in it. And yeah, and I realize some of it's really repetitive, and I realize some of the breakdowns are overdone. But nowadays, the bands that I like more, as listed in my recent video as well on my favorite deathcore bands, I like things that are a little more different, a little bit more melodic, a little more heavy, a little more blackened, something that kind of stands out amongst the sea of generic old deathcore bands. And that's what I really am focusing in now when it comes to deathcore. So yeah, another thing, with the whole breakdowns and metalcore influences in deathcore is the fact that, okay, I like, political leanings, I like the fact that it's not just talking about killing and burning and torturing and whatnot like death metal would be. Um, it has a different sort of lyrical content. It's still brutal. It can still be about killing people, whatever the hell. But it can also be a little bit more political leaning, a little more philosophical. It can also, there's some, romantic-ish, more like, you scoop me over, I'm gonna kill ya, kind of romantic. But, there's a bit more variety in vocals and the lyrical content in deathcore, which is solid. That's what I'm getting at with the lyrical content. The breakdowns and whatnot, it's a little more easy to bop your head to, right? Especially if you're newer into an extreme metal scene. When you go to a breakdown and it just boom, 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 it's easier to bang your head to, as opposed to just I'm not even trying to do the growls, but you know what I mean. Sorry, I have a cold, otherwise I would actually do them. But you know what I mean. It's a little more tangible to newer people, to newer fans of extreme metal. So, that's just how I look at it, at least. I jumped straight into death metal at first, but it was really deathcore that brought me into it. So there's always variabilities in that. But nonetheless, the diversity of the sort of sound, the slowerness and the breakdowns, the more punkish kind of vibe you get with the metalcore influences, the vocal varieties, with the highs, the lows, and clean singing. It really has a very diverse nature in deathcore, which casual fans or people just kind of glancing over that prefer death metal or black metal and haven't taken the time to get into deathcore, and they have some stick up their butt about it and don't want to check it out, doesn't really realize the sort of dynamicness of it, that it's not just the same notes being played over and over in every breakdown, and it's not like watered down death metal. It's a unique style with a lot of variety in it, and I think more people should be more cognizant of that. The elitists that hate on it should be a little, I think you should really do your research a little bit more before you start hating on some shit, because I feel like there's a lot of solid ass fucking deathcore bands and albums out there for anyone to like. If you like death metal or black metal, there's going to be at least some sort of deathcore band that you can probably like, and you just have to find it. I can almost guarantee that for you. So, it's going to be the end of my rant. Went a little bit longer than I thought, but you know what? All my videos are going to do that because I am passionate as hell about my fucking music. See you later.